The journey began at sea, leading to a complex land torn by centuries of conflict. From this chaos emerged opportunities through the most powerful warlord in history, Lord Nobunaga, who took interest in an outsider among outsiders. The Jesuit mission required Nobunaga's favor to continue their presence in Kyoto, as bandits and monks threatened their security. When Lord Nobunaga summoned the delegation, he unexpectedly requested the presence of Diogo, a black man serving as Father Valignano's sword-bearer. Despite Valignano's protest that Diogo was merely a slave who didn't understand the language, Nobunaga insisted on his presence. During the audience, Nobunaga observed that Diogo possessed warrior instincts, noting how his eyes assessed potential threats in the room. Surprising everyone, Diogo revealed he understood and could speak the language. Nobunaga was intrigued, questioning Diogo about his origins and position. When Diogo explained he was Valignano's bodyguard and slave, Nobunaga saw potential in him as a warrior who could inspire armies. Despite granting Valignano's request for his priest's free movement, Nobunaga insisted Diogo remain behind for testing. The memory becomes fractured at this point, requiring a fast-forward to the next reassembled segment. Memory integrity can be compromised by various factors, including data corruption, viruses, and environmental disturbances, or sometimes because someone intentionally prevents certain memories from being seen. The narrative jumps to a battle scene where Ega faces total destruction. A character named Yaske expresses concern about the massive loss of life, while his lord speaks of unification rather than tyranny. With 40,000 countrymen following him, the leader sees this as conviction rather than oppression and sends Yaske to find and kill Momochi to weaken Ega's resistance. Another fragmented memory emerges with a warning that memories can be fractured, ignored, or twisted, but never truly lost. The past holds power. The structural integrity of memories referred to as Fujibaya Shinawe remains solid, with much left to discover. The connection between the listener and these memories suggests this might be the last communication between them. The scene shifts to characters preparing for Oda Nobunaga's arrival. They discuss multiple ongoing wars and mention protecting something valuable that others seek. Trust and protection become central themes as characters pledge to help each other despite not knowing all the secrets involved. A character is instructed to protect a box inside a mountain tomb, which requires a special blade as a key. The box cannot be opened or taken. Despite efforts to protect it, an armored samurai appears and conflict ensues. A character named Stuart is counting on the protection of this mysterious box. A woman named Tomiko has tended to wounds and reveals connections to a character's father, Nagato. The injured character is determined to recover something important lost to a samurai wearing a pale mask. Tomiko recognizes a significant object and directs the character to Kitano Castle, where there might be answers about the stolen box. A tense confrontation unfolds over an important box. Someone claims it will be safe in Sakai, but another insists they would provide better protection. A violent struggle ensues with screams and fighting. The box is declared not for one person, but for another. Strange words are spoken, including mention of Kakoshiba ending. Someone orders to put others out of misery, declaring a life's work undone. A dramatic scene where someone named Stuart is called for help. There's urgency as someone shouts to do something. A dying person laments keeping too much hidden, saying it now dies with them. They mention following the plate and remembering the song in the music before trailing off with incomplete thoughts. Someone awakens in an unfamiliar place with confusion about their location. Morning arrives with the sun nearly risen. A training session begins between a father and his daughter, with the father encouraging proper posture and defense. The daughter shows improvement, winning a match that earns her the right to choose dinner. The daughter expresses desire to train with others, noting her heritage as child of a great Ega warrior. Her father reminds her of other obligations to the community. He assigns her to help Auntie Matsu, emphasizing that Igans must come together like stones forming a mountain. The daughter reluctantly agrees to help their neighbor. The daughter greets Auntie Matsu, who mentions brewing miso soup. Matsu asks for help investigating something stealing her crops. She directs the girl to observe from the old tower for better perspective. The girl agrees to help in exchange for miso soup, with Matsu promising it will be her best yet. The girl discovers strangers who aren't from Ega. A confrontation occurs where the strangers insult Igans as sneaks and hermits. The girl stands her ground, and the strangers threaten violence but are somehow driven away. They mention something big following them to Ega. The girl returns to report to Auntie Matsu. Auntie Matsu serves miso soup while praising the girl for chasing off the intruders, attributing it to her Fujibayashi heritage. The girl worries about something coming, possibly a battle. Matsu encourages facing trouble with courage and a full stomach. She mentions the girl's mother, noting she would be proud, though the girl's father apparently avoids discussing her. News arrives that armies led by Nobukatsu are approaching Ega's borders. The father prepares to meet them before they reach the village, instructing his daughter to stay behind. After he leaves, the daughter feels useless waiting. Auntie Matsu encourages her, saying she has hidden her bravery from her father. Together, they decide to take action. The scene shifts to a monk speaking to someone who has awakened from injury. The injured person, reluctant to be there, is informed they cannot leave due to a severe leg injury. The monk introduces himself as Saurin, mentions a child named Junjiro, and identifies the location as Maki no Odera Temple, affected by war. The injured person, now revealed as Fujibayashi Naoi from Ega, has been cared for by Junjiro. Sorin removes Naoi's splint, noting recovery progress, but acknowledging full strength will take time. Junjiro is described as quiet and having suffered significant loss. The monk trusts Naoi with a knife, showing developing trust. Naoi discovers disturbing paintings, but Junjiro claims he doesn't paint like that anymore. He offers to teach Naoi to see and paint beautiful things instead. They attempt to sketch a tanuki named Mikan, but Naoi struggles with the drawing. Junjiro encourages practice, mentioning that Naoi plays music. Junjiro shows Naoi a box they found with her. Opening it reminds Naoi of an important promise. Later, Naoi attempts to destroy something in apparent frustration. Sorin warns that vengeance is a lonely path. Junjiro reveals he has repaired what Naoi damaged, causing emotional appreciation from Naoi, who feels indebted for their kindness. Naoi announces plans to leave for the home of a family friend named Tomoko, who has a farm in Setsu. Sorin recognizes the name with sympathy, referring to them as a poor family, suggesting he knows something about their situation. An elderly villager named Junjiro shares wisdom with the protagonist, instructing them to head north following a winding mountain pass to reach a farm. He warns of omnipresent danger and reminds them to tend to both physical and emotional wounds. The protagonist bids farewell to Junjiro, expressing feelings of strangeness about leaving the mountain after being there for so long. A somber scene unfolds as characters mourn someone named Nagato. The protagonist discovers that masked samurai, 11 in total, killed their father. The antagonist from Katano was not just a mad ronin, but part of a larger conspiracy. The protagonist vows to kill them all, including those who command them, promising not to hesitate. An older character offers support, sharing a tragic backstory about being left for dead during a war between powerful daimyo. The character's family was killed, their body mangled, and their fields burned, all because they were in the way. This person pledges all their resources to the protagonist in exchange for making the enemies suffer. The protagonist begins gathering supplies and making changes to establish a base. Junjiro unexpectedly arrives, announcing his intention to stay with the protagonist after leaving Maki no Dera. Despite initial resistance due to safety concerns, the protagonist agrees to take care of him, with another character referring to Junjiro as their first recruit. The protagonist learns about potential leads: a man in Sakai who lost an ear months ago, Kyonyo and his monks at a temple in southeast Setsir, and distinctive gold-etched weapons that might be found in Sakai's markets. They're advised to seek a blacksmith named Heiji who owes a favor. A flashback reveals the protagonist's aunt, Matsa, taking them to find a hidden katana in a forest shrine. She gives them the weapon, explaining it was hidden when peace seemed possible. The protagonist meets Momochi Sundayu, who recognizes their resemblance to their parents Nagato and Tsu. A traumatic combat scene unfolds where the protagonist, Naue, kills someone and becomes covered in blood. Initially distressed by taking a life, she justifies it as necessary. A battle erupts against Oda clan forces, with Nao disobeying her father's orders to stay behind, instead following Momochi Sundayu's command to defend Iga. Nao reconnects with Manta, a survivor from their hometown. Manta offers shelter and information gathering services. Later, Nao encounters a dog that belonged to someone named Ichiro. Following the dog, she discovers Ichiro was murdered by his sister-in-law Takako, who falsely claimed he choked on fish. Nao finds a key and a message confirming the murder. In Sakai, we learn of a skilled blacksmith who no longer makes knives following his parents' deaths. A visitor claiming to be Tomiko's friend invites him to join them, promising to help repay his debt to Tomiko and potentially heal old wounds. Despite having nothing left in Sakai, the blacksmith agrees to pack his remaining belongings and come. Tomiko asks Manta, now a scout, to fix something for her. He reminds her of his new position working beyond the town, but she persists. Later, we see a completed forge that honors the blacksmith's parents, who were renowned in Sakai before Oda Nobunaga killed them. Tomiko insists the blacksmith belongs with them and credits Naue for finding him. Two individuals discuss forged letters that supposedly could grant meetings with important people in town. These forgeries reference contracts for silver bars and weapon shipments, even bearing Oda Nobunaga's seal. One person worries these obvious fakes could get them barred from trade. A confrontation occurs when someone interrupts the pair discussing the forged letters. The intruder, revealing herself as Shinobi, demands the papers. Despite initial resistance and attempts to negotiate payment, she ultimately obtains the letters, which will help her disguise herself as a trader to find a woman with the gold teppo. At House Imai, a disguised shinobi presents herself as Sanuki, a merchant with trade contracts bearing Nobunaga's seal. She meets Sokun, son of an influential tea master with connections to Nobunaga. Despite the suspicious nature of her documents, Sokun becomes intrigued by her boldness and agrees to introduce her to his father. Walking through Sakai, Sokun demonstrates his family's influence, even collecting debts by invoking Nobunaga's name. He explains his father's position as Nobunaga's tea master has brought their family fortune and influence. Though some consider Nobunaga a tyrant, Sokun respects his unification efforts and benefits from his continuing power. Over sake, Sanuki requests an invitation to a tea ceremony, suggesting it would facilitate better business contracts. She also expresses interest in meeting teppo gun merchants, particularly women involved in the trade. Sokun agrees to speak with his father and advises her to obtain appropriate attire and learn tea etiquette. Seeking a kosode for the tea ceremony, Sanuki learns that pirates have delayed silk shipments. Taking matters into her own hands, she recovers silk from pirates and returns to the merchant, choosing black Portuguese silk with gold trim for her ceremonial robe. Searching for tea ceremony instruction, Sanuki encounters Senno Rikyu, the foremost tea master. Despite Rikyu's philosophical differences with Sokyu, he agrees to teach her. At his serene home designed around four virtues, respect, tranquility, purity, and harmony, Rikyu begins instructing Sanuki in proper etiquette. When Sanuki asks what Rikyu wants in return for teaching, he explains he gives freely to bring harmony to the world. The lessons include entering as equals with a half bow, discussing arts and poetry, and honoring purity through ceremonial actions like cleaning utensils and turning the shared tea bowl to show humility and respect. During a traditional gift exchange at the conclusion of the tea ceremony, the host presents 3 valuable options: a Yijin teapot with gold trim, a humble tea reef jar passed through many masters, and an unassuming bamboo ladle crafted by Shotoku. Despite initial reluctance, the guest selects the Shotoku bamboo ladle as their gift for Master Sulk, which is praised as an excellent choice. The host expresses hope that the guest will find what they seek at the ceremony. After obtaining the necessary item for the tea ceremony, the guest returns to House Imai, where they must change into a kosode before meeting with Father. Despite insisting on dressing themselves, they are reminded that simply putting on clothes differs from proper ceremonial dressing, suggesting cultural formalities must be observed. Master Soko engages with Sanuki, noting that despite youth, Sanuki has secured impressive contracts. Soko reveals managing a prosperous warehouse in Sakai at a similar age. The conversation shifts to Lord Nobunaga, with Sanuki confirming dealing only with his agent, named Chuta. When questioned about the purpose of tea ceremonies, Sanuki demonstrates knowledge of the 4 virtues, showing familiarity with Sen Nuri-kyu's teachings, while acknowledging there is more to learn. The ceremony is interrupted by Lord Machide, who apologizes for needing to cancel his attendance at the upcoming ceremony. Master Sokyu finds this sudden withdrawal suspicious, especially since it was Lord Nobunaga who initially requested Michide's presence. After Michide departs, Sokyu reveals to Sanuki that he was one of Nobunaga's generals and questions if he might be connected to the contracts, though refusing to make assumptions without evidence. In the garden before the ceremony, Sanuki meets 3 women. Otama immediately criticizes Sanuki's appearance and questions their presence at the exclusive event. Their tense exchange reveals mutual suspicion. Lady Satoko initially mistakes Sanuki for a child, but discusses her unusual hobby of hunting bandits with trained maidservants. Finally, Wakasa, who claims to be a legend in the making with ambitions in Sakai, extends an invitation to visit Osaka Castle. The tea ceremony begins with Sanuki, as the newest arrival to Sakai, given the honor of sitting beside the host. The rare tea served is recognized as one previously shared with the shogun. After appreciating the tea's sublime qualities and the exquisite aesthetics of the bowl, guests present gifts to Master Soko, including a dagger, a painting of wild geese, and a no mask. When Sanuki presents the Shotoku ladle as a gift, Master Sokyu immediately recognizes it from Lord Nobunaga's personal collection, obtained through Master Rikyu. Though initially creating tension, Sokyu accepts the gift graciously, promising to repay Master Rikyu for this act of generosity, before concluding the ceremony and dismissing the guests. After the ceremony, Sanuki contemplates which of the women might be the killer they seek, analyzing each one's character. Wakasa approaches and invites Sanuki to her home. Once there, Wakasa reveals ambitious plans to control the teppo trade in Sakai and build a trading fleet. The situation escalates when Sanuki recognizes Wakasa as their father's murderer and demands a stolen box. The confrontation turns violent, resulting in Wakasa's death. Following a commotion, Sanuki encounters Kyo, who explains that their home at Honganji has been destroyed. Kyo reveals that their father signed a peace treaty with Oda Nobunaga and retreated with most followers, but Kyo refused to surrender. Despite being disowned, Kyo continues fighting against Nobunaga, who is building a castle on their former land. Sanuki shares that Nobunaga also burned their home, revealing their mission to retrieve a box stolen by their father's murderer. A tale unfolds about a father's powerful wish and the consequences of disobedience. The protagonist learns of a man called Wada Koritake, known as the One-Eared Demon, who serves Oda Nobunaga. This brutal commander is responsible for destroying temples, burning relics, and desecrating 500 years of history. His cruelty is evident in the corpses he leaves behind. The group encounters one of Koritake's men, but he is killed before providing information. Yaya joins the quest to find Koritake despite tension within the group. They learn of the chief executioner Nana-Tamatsu, who might reveal Kuratake's whereabouts. The group decides to seek allies, specifically Mitsumune at Nunobiki Fords, who leads survivors from Honganji. At a waterfall, the protagonist meets Mitsumune, who is reluctant to join their fight against Kuretake. He explains how his people were once 40,000 strong, but were decimated by Nobunaga's armies. Mitsumune reveals he lost a sacred statue of Shinran, an important religious figure who offered Buddha's teachings to common people. The protagonist agrees to retrieve this statue to gain Mitsumune's support. The protagonist finds and recovers the statue from bandits. Upon returning it, Mitsumune acknowledges the inevitable bloodshed ahead, but doesn't feel worthy to protect the statue anymore. He agrees to support the fight against Kuretake when the time comes. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure warns the protagonist about the animus ego that threatens to hollow them from within. Kyo receives news that Kuretake is at Amagasaki Castle. Despite Yaya's concerns about peaceful solutions, the group prepares to attack. They join forces with Mitsumune's monks for an assault on the castle. The attack begins with intensity as they seek vengeance against Kuretake and Nobunaga's forces. The protagonist confronts Kuretake, seeking revenge for their father's suffering and death. Despite Yaya's protests against unnecessary killing, violence erupts, with Mitsumune supporting the bloodshed as justice for Nobunaga's past atrocities. Afterward, the protagonist feels remorse for the deaths caused, but Yaya insists the blame lies with Nobunaga. The protagonist receives a sacred artifact and wisdom about hope filling emptiness. Later, they encounter Yaya fighting against monks who have abandoned their faith to become thieves. They discover one thief has stolen Yaya's precious hairpin, Kanzashi, that belonged to her late husband. This thief is identified as Tetsuo, a young man Yaya once mentored. The protagonist pursues Tetsuo to a Christian church where the thieves planned another robbery. Finding Tetsuo hiding and terrified, the protagonist reveals they were sent by Yaya. Tetsuo, misunderstanding the situation, fears for his life and attempts to flee, forcing the protagonist to intervene before he hurts himself. A confrontation unfolds where one person accuses another of stealing. The accused explains they felt abandoned, having lost their guide. They discuss forgiveness as the balanced path, acknowledging past hurts. The mentor encourages both parties to forgive each other and themselves. The mentor admits their own anger issues pushed the other away, leaving them with no choice but to find another family. They exchange forgiveness, recognizing its power. The mentor then extends an offer to join their group, which is accepted. A master notices their student hasn't slept well, hearing them cry out in nightmares. They discuss how war spares no one. The master decides to teach the student Kujikiri, a meditation technique for protection of mind and body in times of danger. This technique helps warriors let go of guilt and regret. The student admits to nightmares about the faces of those they've killed. Through breathing exercises and mindfulness, the student achieves a calmer state. The master arranges for additional training with Momochi Sundeyu and Matsu. Auntie Matsu praises the student for surviving their first battle. She offers a family scroll containing ancestral secrets, but explains the student must retrieve it from a shrine for safekeeping. At the shrine, the student discovers bandits present and moves stealthily to avoid detection. They successfully locate and retrieve the scroll, learning that Matsu's family wielded significant power. The student feels ready to continue their extensive training journey. Sir Sandayu notes the student has transformed into an e-gun shinobi through battle. He assigns them to investigate a watchtower that's lost contact. Using a special hook tool for traversing shadows, the student infiltrates the tower to discover Oda. Ashikar forces have killed all the e-guns stationed there. The student returns to report this intelligence. Sandayu praises them for learning the valuable shinobi lesson of observation, noting it was Matsu's specialty in her younger years. The student is invited to attend the Ikki ceremony, a significant honor after years of spying on such events as a child. Before the ceremony, Sir Samdayu encourages the student to speak up if they have something to say, emphasizing the importance of young Egans stepping into their destiny. The student's father reveals emotional truths about their mother's memory and his oath to protect the student, promising to share more about her soon. At the Iki ceremony, Hattori Hansu interrupts with news that Lord Nobunaga approaches with overwhelming force, including Kogen spies. He offers protection through Lord Tokugawa Ieyasu. This sparks debate about whether to surrender or fight. When the student attempts to speak, controversy erupts over whether they qualify as a warrior of the Iki. The ceremony leader defends the student's right to take the oath, citing their courage in battle, though another member argues courage alone doesn't make a warrior and challenges the student to prove themselves. A duel commences between Fujibe Shinoi and Fuji Tajuro, who question the former's worthiness as a warrior. Following a well-fought battle, Fujita acknowledges Fujibe Shinoi's skill and apologizes for doubting them. The group then returns to the shrine to take the oath of the Iki, uniting them against Oda Nobunaga. The oath ceremony proceeds with each member signing a document. One copy will remain hidden while another becomes sacred, mixed with water and consumed by all members. This ritual symbolizes the unification of the Iki, strengthening them against divisive forces and fortifying them with common purpose. After the ceremony, scouts discover Kogen spies with weapons near their borders, confirming Anzo's warning. Nagato is instructed to write to Hijiyama, while others prepare to investigate Nobunaga's plans. They discover a small opening that provides access to the castle. Inside the castle, news reveals that Oda Nobunaga is heading to Iga, and an invasion is in motion. A confrontation occurs where an individual reveals they are not an ally, but someone to fear. This person acknowledges Fujibe Yasuno's skills, comparing them to their mother's abilities. During their confrontation, stories are shared about only Hansel's childhood as an exceptional shinobi warrior who became viewed as both a prodigy and a demon. The lesson imparted is that nothing lasts forever. Some things die slowly like trees, others quickly like samurai. A document found on a courier reveals shocking information. News arrives that Iga is under attack by Oda Nobunaga, necessitating immediate action. Despite warnings that it's too late to prepare a defense, they decide to ride to Ikuni Strain. Memories of destroyed villages fuel determination to prevent similar tragedies. 2 Onryo are declared eliminated. However, a new development arises when Lord Akachi Machide, Nobunaga's powerful daimyo, requests a meeting at a specific location where a previous killing occurred. At the meeting, Lord Machide reveals he wants help killing Oda Nobunaga. He explains that Nobunaga practices tea ceremony at Honoji with minimal protection, creating an opportunity to strike. Machide also reveals that Nobunaga is the leader of the Onyo, who call themselves Shimbakufu. After seeing evidence of Nobunaga's involvement in past atrocities, including the death of the protagonist's father, agreement is given to help kill him. Machide introduces his son-in-law, Issei Sadoki, who will provide further instructions in Kyoto. The mission requires acquiring genuine documents to enter Honoji. After obtaining the necessary documents from a samurai, preparations move forward. At Shoriji Castle, final plans are made. The protagonist enters Honoji, hidden in a rice shipment, searching for Nobunaga as Machide begins his attack on the temple. As the attack commences, Nobunaga realizes Machide has betrayed him. He orders his loyal servants to escape while he remains. A confrontation ensues between Nobunaga and the protagonist, who accuses him of killing their father and being involved with the Shimbakufu. Nobunaga denies knowledge of the box and claims Machide has deceived everyone. Though admitting to killing many people, he insists it was to strengthen the country, not for the Shimbakufu. He justifies his actions as necessary for creating a unified nation with a single destiny. In a moment of grave reflection, a warrior justifies their controversial actions, explaining they forged unity through necessary harshness. They lament that clans bicker while enemies wait to strike. Despite noble intentions to unite their people, they now face failure and cannot continue to rule, acknowledging another named Machide seeks leadership but lacks support. A poignant farewell unfolds as a character named Ki is instructed not to recover the speaker's head. The defeated leader acknowledges their end, expressing gratitude to Ki for saving them. Ki refuses thanks, asking only for honor, as the defeated one accepts responsibility for their fate. The scene shifts to conflict as someone mocks even in death. A Brook soldier is deemed an outsider and ordered to be removed. Despite being told to leave, this outsider asserts they're staying, calling the deceased Viscount Deo their friend until they meet again. Junjiro is frantically sought as news breaks that Oda Nobunaga is dead and Honnouji is burning. Surprisingly, Lord Machide was behind the mask, not Nobunaga. The protagonist realizes they've been manipulated and now face Machide's army. Despite the chaos, they are urged to return to Kitano to find clues and a path forward. Concern grows over Junjiro's absence. Though villagers search for him, the protagonist is warned not to lose track of Lord Mitsuhiro, who knows their skills and will be prepared. The protagonist declares Junjiro is their only remaining family and sets off for Kitano again. Smoke leads to a shocking discovery of Junjiro possibly working with Lord Machide. As soldiers surround the castle, a desperate escape begins through rainy conditions, masking their flight from pursuing forces. A tense standoff ensues with a stranger who shows remarkable combat skills. After defeating multiple opponents, the stranger reveals they came not to kill but to talk, claiming their fates are connected through the blade on the protagonist's wrist. The stranger asks to walk alongside them, promising honesty regardless of cost. The narrative shifts to a confrontation between a shinobi warrior and someone referred to as Oda Nobunaga. The shinobi defiantly challenges Nobunaga's victory, suggesting defeat would bring greater wisdom. A foreigner named Yaske requests to duel the shinobi, asking about what drives their loyalty to their lord. A dying warrior named Sandayu speaks of a girl from Eager with the same blade, urging Yaske to trust and help her. This revelation sparks intense emotion as past atrocities are remembered, killed neighbors, friends, and loved ones. Junjiro intervenes, revealing unexpected connections between the characters and forcing a confrontation with shared guilt. Forgiveness transforms enemies into allies as Genjiro and Yaske form a connection. They return to Tomiko, who welcomes them despite initial caution. The protagonist declares that they will become something new, requesting items for a ritual that will formalize their bond against the evil threatening their homeland. A ceremony unites the group through an ancient Egan tradition. They name themselves the League of the Hidden Blade, the Kakushiba Iki. The protagonist then reveals information about enemies called the Onairo, who killed their father and stole a precious box. With new allies providing critical information, they plan to search in Yamashiro and Harima. The group encounters servants protecting an ailing lord who turns out to be the brother of Isadoki, Machide's son-in-law. The lord reveals he was poisoned by his brother Sadaoki, who now controls their clan under Machide's orders. This shared hatred of Machide creates trust, confirming the existence of a secret group called the Shimbakufu. An individual explains their attempts to reason with their brother Sanuki by sending letters persuading him to break with Machide. Someone questions if Sanuki is Shimbabu and suggests he cannot be saved. The individual acknowledges this possibility, but emphasizes his brotherly duty to try. Unfortunately, their messenger was attacked near Arashiyama, and Sanuki's reply was stolen. The individual's motives are questioned, but they promise to confront their brother at Yamazaki Castle if he refuses counsel. They mention having an ally named Ujimasa hiding at Kiyomizu Dera Temple who has valuable knowledge. When told that reasoning with the brother won't be possible, they express hope for a peaceful resolution. At Kumizadera water stream, known for its purity, visitors can drink from 3 different streams that bestow love, success, or longevity. The visitor chooses the success stream, stating that uniting the country is paramount. After drinking from the stream, the visitor meets Ujima, who confirms Lord Sadatame sent them to find a way into Yamazaki Castle. Ujima calls Sadatame's brother corrupt, but requires the visitor to prove themselves before helping. He directs them to deal with rogue samurai harassing merchants in Kyoto. The visitor confronts and defeats the Takahashi clan leader and other samurai in Kyoto. After completing this task, they return to Ujima, who agrees to help, providing a key to the castle's inner gate with a warning that it will be well defended. Ujima urges showing no mercy to Sadaoki. The visitor encounters someone who claims an Oni stole Lord Sadatine's letter. Following directions to a bamboo grove behind the temple, they meet the supposed Oni, who is actually a thief. After a challenging fight, the thief surrenders the letter, admitting they can't read it anyway. The thief reveals hatred for the Aize clan for mistreating servants, particularly a girl from Kyoto who served Sadoki. The visitor warns that seeking judgment is treacherous, but the thief dismisses this advice, planning to target wealthy merchants passing through. The recovered letter is in court language, which someone helps translate. It confirms Sadaoki rejected Sadatame's help, proving Sadatame told the truth. The visitor is instructed to return the letter to their lord. At a sumo match, observers discuss strategy beyond physical strength. A distinguished spectator philosophically notes that in wrestling, war, and politics, manipulating forces leads to victory. He mentions foreigners arriving and the importance of adapting to changing powers. The spectator is revealed to be Shogun Ashikaga Yoshiaki. With the letter confirming Sadaoki's guilt, preparations are made to confront him. A plan is formed. The samurai will create a distraction at the castle entrance, while the shinobi opens the inner gate with Ujimasa's key. Sadatame will follow, and together they will confront his brother. The attack on Yamazaki Castle begins. After breaching the defenses, Sadatame confronts his brother Sadaoki, pleading with him to abandon Lord Machide and restore their clan's honor. Sadaoki rejects this, calling his brother weak and sentimental. A fierce battle ensues with Sadaoki's guards. The mysterious thief from earlier appears and assists in defeating Sadaoki. The thief admits targeting the Issei clan out of revenge, suggesting collaboration with the visitor before departing with stolen goods. Sadatame survives with a non-fatal wound. The visitor acknowledges that Sadatame was trying to save his family, something anyone would do. Sadatame vows to bury and mourn his brother, then work to undo the damage caused. The scene shifts to a chaotic situation with people searching for Hideyoshi and Lady Nini. Someone expresses concern about finding Lady Nini before being caught. The situation resolves when Lady Nini is found safe nearby. A meeting is arranged at Sokenji Temple, where someone has learned the true meaning of taking up the sword. Upon arrival, Diogo meets Lady Nene, who invites him to learn calligraphy. Diogo expresses frustration about his training with Nobunaga Sensei, revealing he cannot defeat him and believes he's been sent away as punishment. Lady Nini explains that calligraphy has been taught to nobility since ancient times, and Diogo was sent for contemplation, not chastisement. She teaches that both sword and brush are expressions of self that can be refined. The calligraphy lesson emphasizes balance as strokes flow within space rather than overpowering it. Lady Nini introduces 6 warrior virtues: benevolence, righteousness, courtesy, wisdom, integrity, and courage. Diogo realizes these virtues represent the way of the warrior that Nobunaga Sensei wants him to embody. Lady Nini affirms these qualities already exist within Diogo, as the Oda clan recognized from the beginning. The scene shifts to a later time when Yaske meets Lady Nene again. They discuss Lord Nobunaga's death and the betrayal by Mitsuhide, who is working with a group called the Shimbakufu. Lady Nin offers herself as an ally and reveals that Yasuke is traveling with a woman named Naue. Lady Nini expresses concern that her husband, Lord Hideyoshi, might be the next target. She informs Yaske that Hideyoshi is gathering allies at Himeji Castle. She also mentions a contact named Aoi in Otsu who can help Yaske and Naue. They part ways with Lady Nini, encouraging Yaske to have courage. A flashback shows Diogo meeting Kamizumi Nobutsuna Sensei, who is instructed by Lord Nobunaga to train him. Spectators doubt Diogo's abilities, betting on how quickly he'll be defeated. Diogo is informed he has 1 month to become an exemplary warrior before Nobunaga's return, requiring more than just hard work. Diogo spars with Nobutsuna Sensei and is soundly defeated. Later, he intervenes when samurai harass a cook, resulting in a confrontation where he's warned not to show insolence again. Despite the harsh training and humiliation, Diogo resolves not to give up or fail. Diogo meets Lady Oichi, Lord Nobunaga's sister, who heard about his defense of the cook. She's curious about his background and motivations for coming to Japan. Diogo remains vague but mentions the Portuguese with bitterness. Lady Oichi presents him with a kosode, garment, made by the woman he defended. Lady Nene secretly meets with Diogo and explains political tensions. She reveals that Nobutsuna Sensei was once Lord Nobunaga's teacher, but was dishonored when a rival school's champion won his prized katana. The rival sensei, Masatoyo, will wear this sword while pledging allegiance to Nobunaga, a deliberate humiliation. Diogo reflects on the warrior virtues and his identity. A child named Yaske shares that his grandfather was a brave and kind warrior. The scene culminates with Lord Oda Nobunaga's arrival and a formal presentation of gifts as signs of loyalty. A foreigner challenges Masatoyo's champion to a duel, declaring he will win to reclaim his mentor's sword. Despite objections that this barbarian is no samurai, a lord permits and even commands the duel. Masatoyo's champion had defeated 3 students, but the challenger confidently states it matters not how many opponents face him. The duel begins with steel weapons. The challenger confronts his opponent who taunts him, promising to witness his shameful death. Despite the intensity of the fight, the challenger successfully defeats his opponent and recovers the katana. After winning the duel, the victor returns the katana to someone called Sensei with honor. There's some conversation in another language, followed by praise for the victor's loyalty and valor. He is granted the status of samurai and asked his name, to which he responds, Yasuke. Yaske joins his sensei by a favorite bonsai tree in Azuchi. The sensei explains that cultivating bonsai is about guiding its development, but the tree must want to grow. Yaske responds that he hopes to remain worthy of his guidance. The sensei praises Yaske for coming from a far land, overcoming bondage and mastering their language. The sensei notes that foreign samurai are unheard of, yet Yaske was chosen by Lord Nobunaga. He tells Yaske he may prove to be the most promising student ever to study Shinkake-ryu. He gives Yaske a scroll containing names of his greatest students, challenging him to defeat them when he's ready. A messenger informs Yaske that Lady Oichi requests his presence at Old Anikasur. The messenger also reports corruption in Aomi where officials unfairly tax locals. Yaske promises to help. He also plans to visit his sensei Nobutsuna at his new estate and seek allies at the Tenshu. Locals recognize Yaske as Lord Nobunaga's samurai and whisper about whether Nobunaga has returned. Lord Nagahide greets Yaske, mentioning that children play games inspired by him. Yaske inquires about Nobunaga's allies, particularly Lord Ieyasu and Mori Ranmaru. Yasuke is introduced to Mori Ranmaru, who escorts him to Lord Nobunaga. They pass through elaborate quarters with a bathtub in an unusual location. Ranmaru explains that Lord Nobunaga does things differently from others, and they must obey his orders. Ranmaru shows Yasuke paintings and artifacts that Lord Nobunaga contemplates for inspiration. He mentions a temple that almost took Nobunaga's life, which Nobunaga decorated as a reminder of life's fleeting nature. Yaske sees the Oda clan wakizashi used to take many heads before being invited to enter Nobunaga's chamber. Lord Nobunaga welcomes Yaske to Azuchi. He asks about Yasuke's chosen name, and Yaske explains it represents courage and integrity he aspires to embody. Nobunaga states he rewards valor and loyalty over birthright and clan ties, which is why Yaske is there. Nobunaga values Yasuke's intimate knowledge of the Jesuits. He questions Yaske about these foreigners, their motivations, and religious beliefs. Yaske explains that while many are honest believers, the cross paves the way for the sword to follow. Nobunaga agrees with this assessment. Nobunaga shares his vision, stating that while his armies bring war, their purpose is to establish peace, not plunder. He believes there is much he and Yaske will learn from each other, calling this just the beginning of their relationship. Nobunaga shows Yaske a Tipor arquebus, a firearm improved upon from Portuguese designs. He recalls how such weapons helped defeat the Takeda cavalry at Nagashino, though the victory left him feeling empty as noble warriors were cut down like wheat. Yaske successfully fires the weapon. After Yasuke's successful shot, there's a sudden ambush attack. Guards rush to protect Lord Nobunaga. Later, Nobunaga summons his generals to discuss this attack in the heart of Azuchi. Despite protests about Yasuke's presence, Nobunaga insists he remain as a samurai and advisor. Hideyoshi returns with the head of Besho Nagaharu, a former thorn in Nobunaga's side. Nobunaga praises Hideyoshi's strategic approach and compares him favorably to Machide. They discuss remaining opposition, including the Ega problem, and possible assassins with a mysterious blade on the wrist. When Nobunaga asks for Yasuke's counsel on handling the Ega situation, Yasuke agrees with Lord Mitsuhide's suggestion to outflank and surprise the enemy. Nobunaga decides they will ride to war at dawn, taking the long route to attack where unexpected. As they prepare for battle, Yasuke receives gifts from Lady Nine and another called Eijo Witch, presumably for courage in the upcoming conflict. Nobunaga declares they must punish the peasants of Ega and remind them of their place. A conversation reveals that Ranmaru performed seppuku at Honnoji after ensuring others' safety. Someone named Akachi Mitsuhide is blamed and will be held accountable. The speakers discuss future plans. One will seek Lord Ieyasu in Yamashiro to gain his allegiance, while another will return to Wakasa to address troubles there. A reunion takes place between Yaske and a respected sensei at Butsuna Sensei's estate. They reflect on their time since Honnoji, acknowledging that nothing will compare to Lord Nobunaga's reign. The sensei speaks philosophically about how all things must pass, including power and valor. Despite feeling his own mortality, the sensei believes Yaske has proven worthy to carry on their legacy. The sensei encourages Yaske to open a scroll, bestowing an honor Yaske feels unworthy of receiving. Despite Yasuke's protests about lacking sufficient skill, the sensei insists Yaske is ready. The sensei explains that after a disgrace, his finest students scattered across the land. He tasks Yaske with seeking out these masters to prove the sword school remains unbroken, promising they will teach advanced samurai combat techniques. Yaske pledges to honor the sensei's faith and return victorious. Before departing, Yaske requests they share a cup of sake. The sensei calls this impudent but agrees to one cup upon Yasuke's triumphant return. The conversation shifts to a challenge issued by Marume Nagayoshi of Shinkake Ryo, who awaits challengers on the North Road out of Azuchi. This opponent is revealed to be a student of Nobatuna's sensei. After a time jump, Yaske faces Marume Nakayoshi, seeking to be tested to attain mastery. When questioned about the path to victory against strong opponents, Yaske recites Nobutsuna sensei's teaching that the mind must understand an opponent's moves. Marume acknowledges Yasuke's memorization of teachings, but warns that defeat comes from timidity, laxity, and retreat. Marume accepts Yasuke's challenge. A duel takes place amid morning dew and mist. After a hard-fought battle, Marume is defeated. He reflects on his past when he craved battle and viewed others merely as bodies to break. He credits Nobunaga Sensei with saving him, teaching him to honor the hands and heart behind each sword. Murume explains that each victory brings him closer to returning to darkness, but Yasuke's victory against him honors their sensei's teachings. The scene shifts to a village where a thief is causing commotion. A confrontation occurs about stolen goods, revealing a bitter perspective on samurai as oppressive bullies. The thief criticizes samurai for exploiting poor farmers, while tax collectors take more rice each year, leaving villagers barely enough to survive. This leads to a heated exchange about honor, friendship, and the true nature of corruption. The thief, now cleaned up, meets in Kyoto and proposes robbing a tax collector who annually takes more rice than villagers can afford. The thief requests help stealing a specific scroll in exchange for keeping any other valuables. After the heist, the scroll reveals the location of Yamashiro's rice storage house, which is full while villagers starve. The thief wants to return the rice to those it was stolen from. The thief is captured and imprisoned. After being rescued, the thief reveals a tragic past, being caught stealing from a samurai named Tatsugoro, who then killed the thief's parents as punishment. This trauma fueled a desire for revenge against all samurai. Despite this painful history, a connection forms between the thief and rescuer, who suggests meeting at Nizo Palace to continue their mission. In a moment of desperation, a character resolves to burn everything down, even if it means being consumed by the flames. They express satisfaction in the potential destruction of the samurai and believe this will lead to an uprising of the poor. The character appears willing to sacrifice themselves for this cause. A brief exchange occurs where someone acknowledges hearing something. There's mention of monkeys meditating and questions about Egon's facing Mitsuhide's army. The character expresses a need to help in the conflict. A significant encounter occurs with Lord Tokugawa Ieyasu, who is pleased to see Yasuke survive Lord Nobunaga's betrayal. Yasuke affirms his loyalty to Nobunaga's alliances. Lord Ieyasu meets Nawa, recognizing him as connected to the Fujibayashi. It's revealed that Hattori Hanzo serves Lord Ieyasu. Lord Ieyasu discusses his strategic approach to the current conflict, emphasizing patience over aggression. He explains that restraint will ultimately triumph over vengeance and power struggles. He chooses not to join the fight, believing it wiser to wait as the other factions tear each other apart. Nawa meets with Hattori Hanzo alone. Hanzo reveals that Nawa's father died protecting a lacquered box with unknown contents. Hanzo warns Nawa to abandon this quest, claiming it led to both his father's and mother's deaths. Despite these warnings, Nawa insists on keeping his promise. Hanzo describes Nawa's mother as an exceptional warrior, revealing he was close to Nawa's father despite their differences. He mentions multiple cursed boxes that changed their relationship. Hanzo offers Nawa a chance to work with him, but Nawa refuses, accusing Hanzo of being power-hungry. Hanzo tells Nawa that answers can be found in a coffin in Setu, but warns that Nawa must walk this path alone. After their tense exchange, Yasuke comforts Nawa, who admits feeling scared. Nawa tells Yasuke he can't accompany him this time, but Yasuke reassures him that allies will be there if needed. Nawa searches for what Hanzo mentioned and discovers an ancient battle site with bodies of Ronin and Shinobi. He finds a scroll with partial text reading, "Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent," and a journal in Latin. Yasuke appears and helps translate the journal. The journal belongs to Alvaro Catarabera, a Spaniard who wrote about expanding a brotherhood under Emperor Ganara's mission. It mentions Nawa's mother Tsuyu and a shinobi named Momochi Sendayu. The journal reveals Tsuyu was tasked with protecting important objects whose secrets must be kept. Nawa realizes his parents died for a creed that included the tenet, "Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent." With this newfound understanding of his parents' honorable mission, Nawa and Yasuke decide to seek what was lost, planning to explore outposts in Tamba, Omi, Ki, and Yamato. Yasuke notices a change in Nawa, who has found a path beyond Yasuke's guidance. They reflect on how the past is never truly erased, only obscured. The narrative shifts to Katarabara's initiation into the Brotherhood and his oath to spare innocent lives. Katarabara describes his tragic mistake of killing an innocent girl, leading to his excommunication from the Brotherhood. After drifting through various ports, he learns about Templar activities in Japan. He arrives in Nagasaki in 1549, finding renewed purpose and taking a promising Japanese girl with a withered arm under his wing. The scene shifts to Otsu, where Nawa learns about a duel scheduled on Sedap Bridge involving a high-ranking target. All bridge work has been halted until the duel concludes. Nawa decides to wait until nightfall to observe the situation. As night falls, warriors prepare for what appears to be an ambush rather than an honorable duel. Someone mentions bringing an old man's head to please their uncle, boasting they'll accomplish in one night what Oda Nobunaga couldn't do in 10 years. The leader of the 53 families of Kogad refuses to retreat from his homeland. A tense confrontation unfolds between enemies. One accuses the other of being from a treacherous clan that owes everything to a now-dead demon. The accused responds calmly that other powers exist in the land, specifically mentioning Dasim Bakfu is rising. The confrontation escalates into violence when one orders his men to bring the old man's head. An ambush erupts with intense fighting. The attackers realize Akichi Kagamitsu is definitely Shimbabuf and has retreated to Sakamoto Castle. They discuss breaching the castle to take his head. A more cautious approach is advised against a direct assault. The identity of a duelist is revealed as Shota, former daimyo of Omi, who commands Shinobi of Koga and might know secret routes into the castle. The protagonist encounters Shota, who initially mistakes them for Akachi enemies. Shota is revealed to be a fallen warrior who fought against Oda Nobunaga longer than anyone, but now wallows in defeat and drink. When Akachi warriors arrive seeking Shota, the protagonist defends him and convinces the old warrior to help them breach Sakamoto Castle. Shota reveals his daughter Katsui might help them infiltrate Sakamoto Castle. She's gone to Onyakuchi on Mount Ye, described as a place of ghosts. Grateful for being saved, Shota agrees to stand with them against their common enemy. The protagonist journeys to find Katsui among the desolation of a place where Nobunaga slaughtered thousands. The protagonist, named Nawai from Iga, finds Shota's daughter and requests her help infiltrating Sakamoto Castle to kill Akechi Kigetsu. Initially refusing to join what she considers her father's vendetta, she eventually reconsiders. Meanwhile, the group reunites at Sakamoto to plan their assault, with Katsui suggesting using gunpowder barrels as a diversion. The assault begins with a formal duel between Yasuke, identified as Nobunaga's former warrior, and Gamo Yoshimitsu, a champion swordsman protecting Akachi Kagamitsu. Meanwhile, Katsui and another fighter infiltrate the castle to set off explosions as a diversion. Their plan works as guards rush to contain the gunpowder explosions. The team confronts Akechi Kigetsu, who recognizes them from a previous ambush. Before being killed, he reveals his uncle serves the mysterious Shimbab Fu for promises of wealth and power. After the successful mission, Shota provides a list of his former students who have been hired for evil purposes, and gives the protagonist a family heirloom. The protagonist meets with Lady Oichi in a melancholic garden she maintains in memory of someone. They discuss the protagonist's status as a ronin, masterless samurai, after the death of their daimyo. Lady Oichi mentions that the traitor Mitya wouldn't let the protagonist die defending their lord, claiming an outlander couldn't die with honor. A conversation about the Shimbakuf is occurring, identified as oppressors in the land of Ormi who threaten lawful order and extort farmers. A widow has summoned someone to help stop them, providing notes on their presence and plots to destroy the Teppo factory. The conversation shifts to personal matters about the widow's home and her brother's death, which apparently occurred in flames while quoting from a play called Atsi Mori. Lady Oeji requests a meeting at Isakiji Temple to continue the samurai education her brother started. The conversation is overheard by someone who demands to see envelopes containing information about corrupt text collectors working for the Shimbakufu and a plot to sabotage Nagahama. Their leader, known as the Wheel, wears a mask of streaming tears. The Nagahama Temple factory was important to Lord Nobunaga as it provided his men with good, cheap weapons. The Shimbakufu wants to prevent others from having this power and plans to use gunpowder to destroy half the town. A sabotage mission involving gunpowder is carried out successfully on a shipment. The Baikani are extorting the poor while the emperor remains powerless and the shogun weak. At Hachiman, Yaske meets with someone who explains that Omis Daikon is corrupt and secretly works for the Shimbabu. The scheme involves sending out a false daikon, claiming the first was an imposter. Lord Hideyoshi holds northern Omi but is often away at war. A plan forms to investigate the corrupt officials while keeping Lady Oechi's name out of the matter. A drunken samurai is discovered in a rice field, leading to a confrontation that ends with the samurai's death. The corrupt daikon is located in Azuchi, and a visit is planned to address the situation. The Shimbakufu of Omi are gathering in Shurtsa. Yaske and Yosuke discuss their service to the land and to Lady Oechi. Yosuke reveals he grew up on a rice farm in Omi before entering service to Lord Azai Nagamasa, who was Lady Oechi's husband. Yosuke provides a list of more corrupt daikon working for the Shimbabu. Lady Oechi meets with Yasuke for a boat trip from Isakiji Temple to Shirahige Shrine across the sacred lake. During their journey, Lady Oechi tells the story of Fujiwara no Hide, nicknamed Bag of Rice, who helped the Dragon King by slaying a giant centipede monster called Umkade that lived in Lake Beach. Upon arriving at Shirahige Shrine, Yaske undergoes ritual purification while Lady Oechi attends to personal matters. The shrine emphasizes charity and generosity. Following purification, Yasuke receives a Gofu, tutelary amulet, for blessings on his journeys. A ritual prayer is performed. Yasuke expresses gratitude for his training at Azuchi. Lady Oechi shares memories of being her brother's favorite sister before being married off to a rival, Azai Nagamasa. She describes her husband as brave, kind, and loyal, with whom she had 3 daughters and 4 years of happiness before her brother and husband went to war. Her brother One burned Odani Castle, killed her husband, and used his skull as a feast ornament. Lady Oechi shows her brother's wakizashi, sword that came into her possession after the Hon-Oji incident. She philosophizes about vengeance and mercy being incompatible, requiring difficult choices. When asked how Head spent his last night knowing his castle would fall tomorrow, Yasuke says Head prepare for the fight and to die if necessary. Lady Oechi notes he has grown the heart of a samurai. Before departing, Lady Oechi warns that the leader of the Shimbabu is reportedly among the highest in the land and advises caution. The narrative concludes with someone stating they have done what they must and are heading to meet with their league at Shiotsu while waiting for someone named Kunai. An investigation is underway to uncover the identity of the masked figure known as the Wheel. 2 individuals plan to search different locations in Shiotsu, one checking an inn where corrupt tax collectors are gathering, while another will search the harbor for a luxury barge. The investigator heading to the inn must remain undetected to avoid confrontation. At the inn, a conversation reveals that a meeting was relocated and someone rented the entire establishment to impress someone. The eavesdropper learns about a samurai who might know more about the Wheel. A crucial discovery is made. The Shimbokful of northern Omi are gathering for a ceremony, and their leader, the Wheel, is a woman. The investigators learn that the Shimbokofo are gathering at Hogonji Temple on Shikobushima that night by command of their leader. They decide this is the perfect opportunity to confront the Wheel, with one person heading directly to the temple while the other sweeps the shoreline. A confrontation occurs with the Wheel, who is revealed to be Lady Wichi. She explains her actions were initially meant to help the people of Omi during a poor harvest by borrowing money from a lender. However, she became entangled in a corrupt group before realizing their true nature. Despite calls for her death, mercy is shown. Lady Wichi reveals that Lord Machide knows everything about the corrupt group. She gives her brother's swords to Yasuke, telling him to wield them well. She plans to meditate on her misdeeds and possible remedies. A companion suggests that Lady Oichi and Yasuke share mutual affection, though Yaske dismisses this possibility due to their different social standings. While traveling, the companions encounter dangers in the form of shadows with knives. A fellow traveler warns them about seeing a shadowy figure with weapons heading into caves in the hills. They discover abandoned belongings, suggesting someone has been taken. In a cave, they face an enemy referred to as Shimbabv, who hired Shote's former students against them. A battle ensues against the Godai Shinobi, with references to spirits and demons. One fighter rejects violence with a simple "no," ending the confrontation. Afterward, Shote explains he has received an invitation from Lord Hideyoshi to join his council of elders as an advisor, teaching horsemanship and archery to the new generation of leaders. The scene shifts to a meeting with Lord Kuroda Kanbei, who is securing borders before joining Lord Hideyoshi on the front lines. A diplomatic gathering called Rengakai is being held with Lord Ukita Naoye to affirm alliances. A young hostage, Hide, is revealed to be part of the alliance terms. Lord Kanbei warns about sentimentality being a liability for warriors and daimyo. Lord Kanbei reveals that many of Lord Hideyoshi's allies will gather in one place at the Rengakai, suggesting their target might attack during this event. Young Lord Hide guides the way to the gathering. They meet Lord Konishi Yukinaga, who assists with temple reconstruction, symbolizing Lord Naoya's continued presence for his son despite physical absence. The Rengakai begins with poetic exchanges about changing seasons and battles. A mysterious participant catches attention for not fitting any traditional role at such a gathering, neither merchant, monk, nor poet. The observer claims to know why this stranger has come, ending with a question hanging in the air. Two individuals meet to discuss their reasons for being in Harima. They engage in philosophical conversation about power dynamics and the rules of Rengakai poetry, where Lord Kanbei's Haku focuses on seasonal imagery. They discuss how the third poet in this tradition must avoid speaking of seasons regardless of personal inclination. A lord mentions that his son wrote a stanza for him, which he plans to read once his vision for Harima is settled. When asked what his speech will address, he simply answers, "regret." The lord then recites a poem about the hagi flower yearning for familiar soil as its petals fall silent. Suddenly, chaos erupts. Lord Kanbei's suspicions prove correct as an attack occurs. Guards are found dead and Commander Tokubei is missing. Most critically, Lord Kanbei's son Hidei has been kidnapped. A barricade is ordered on all roads in and out of Himeji to find the boy. The attackers, identified as Ronin, carried an unusual, overpowering incense smell. Despite the kidnapping, negotiations between Lord Nawai and others are scheduled to continue at Himeji Castle. Everyone agrees that finding Hidei must take priority, with assurances given to Lord Kanbei about his son's safety. The daimyos are criticized for using the boy as a political pawn. Two leads emerge: the missing castle commander Tokubei and the strange scent noticed during the attack. Lord Yukinaga reveals he recognizes the incense from business associates who help with reconstruction of holy sites. Lord Yukinaga claims ignorance about the attack, but mentions his associates are merchants from Basin, where Lord Uchita Naoya is daimyo. Someone decides to intercept a scheduled shipment from these merchants to investigate further. Upon confronting the merchants, who appear heavily armed, they attack when questioned about their true activities. Their shipment contains incense masking gunpowder. Documents reveal weapons being shipped from Bisan to Himeji Castle, signed by Lord Yukinawa, with some going to a nearby shrine. Lord Yukinaga denies knowledge of weapon shipments, expressing shock that incense from Bisan concealed weapons. He suggests a conspiracy has followed Lord Nalia to Harima, using temples and shrines as cover for smuggling operations. He advises staying hidden until the situation is resolved. Reports emerge of a strange warrior seen dancing with a katana in the forest, described as half man and half beast. Later, Tokugawa's wife reveals her husband is missing and may be gambling again. A shrine fortune found in his room appears to contain a coded message. Tokugawa is found naked and frightened. After a brief chase, he confesses that men from Beijing paid to stay at Himeji Castle and executed the attack on orders from a samurai from Chuogu. Tokugawa recorded their positions and agrees to return to the castle to help an ally named Yaske. At a shrine, an unusual Miko priestess makes cryptic statements about the dead speaking. She reacts strongly when shown the coded fortune. After a confrontation, the young Lord Hideo is discovered injured but alive. He explains that Ronin brought him to the shrine rather than killing him. Hideo mentions his father presented a stanza about regret at the Rengakai, which Hideo had prepared as a message for both of them. As they prepare to leave, Hideo appears unusually comfortable in the shrine, mentioning that many temples were damaged during fighting. The story continues with a conversation about a father who contributed to reconstruction and helped people make sense of their suffering. Despite having a difficult childhood without anyone caring for him, the father is described as someone who cares for others. This explains why the speaker obeyed when sent to Lord Hideyoshi and Kambi as a way of caring for the father in return. A conversation occurs regarding a young lord who is being taken away. Questions arise about the oddity of hiding a daimyo's son. A humble servant explains they are bound to Lord Hideyoshi's service, with Lord Hideyoshi and Lord Kanbei caring for them in return. The young lord feels important with all the attention and promises to prove worthy of their protection. The father arrives, but instead of taking his son to Himeji as expected, he instructs him to go with his men to Okayama in Basin. The son worries he has disappointed his father, but is assured this isn't the case. Lord Naoya appears with impeccable timing, revealing he's there for his son, who is spotted at the shrine. Questions arise about why Hideo isn't returning to Himeji Castle. Lord Naoya appears confident his son will reach Okayama Castle. He explains that as an Ukita, his son understands even a smile can become a weapon. It's revealed Lord Naoya has grown into an annoyance since Setsu. The truth emerges about weapons hidden in the temple and soldiers concealed inside Himeji. Lord Naoya is planning another attack and captured his own son during the Rengakai. He claims he hid his son for safety until his business was completed, but things became complicated. Lord Naoya cannot achieve his goals while Hashiba Hideyoshi and Kuroda Kanbei live. A discussion about Lord Hide reveals he's returning to Bezon, home of his father Lord Okita Naoya, who orchestrated the Rangakai attack aimed at the speaker, with Hideo caught in the middle. Lord Naoya has stationed private forces at Himeji Castle as a backup plan. Despite the serious allegations, they decide not to call off the meeting to avoid losing the opportunity to strike. Lord Kanbei prioritizes stopping Ukita Naoya above his own safety. Whatever happens must stay within Himeji Castle's walls. Despite concerns about leaving Lord Kanbei alone with Naoya, Kanbei insists on discovering what Naoya thinks he stands to gain and taking what he fears to lose. Kanbei promises to speak to Ukita Naoya in terms he can understand. The narrator questions whether Lord Kanbei is a genius or a fool. They discover Lord Naoya's shinobi hidden in plain sight, including those disguised as Miko, fake guards among Himeji's regulars, servants carrying concealed weapons, and even a cook. The narrator eliminates these hidden threats and prepares to meet Yaske at the Hanmu Maru. A tense confrontation unfolds between a protagonist and an antagonist called the Ox. The Ox claims his conviction cost him everything and accuses the protagonist of having misguided convictions. He declares his men have nothing to lose after Nobunaga took everything from them. The Ox believes meaning is carved with the edge of a blade, and he has armed his men to fight back and give them a voice. The protagonist realizes there are too many enemies to risk the safety of a monk and Lord Tadashiga. When confronted about only his voice being heard despite claiming to give his men voices, the Ox challenges the protagonist, referencing a young monk and grandmother who survived a massacre. The Ox questions what the protagonist ever did for the boy and proclaims that unlike that boy, he has found his voice. The Ox offers a choice to join him at Miki Castle, promising rebirth and dignity for those who follow, while threatening those who refuse. After the Ox departs, the protagonist realizes Lord Tadashige sheltered monks and knows the Ox, making him a valuable source of information. The protagonist, revealed to be Naoe, along with Yaske, meets Tadashige, who explains his connection to the Bezo clan. They discuss the Ox's threat and numerous forces. Tadashige explains that Nobunaga attempted not just to kill people, but to crush an idea that villagers could stand against him. Tadashige warns that engaging the Ox at Miki Castle would be suicide. The protagonist encounters a young guard and obtains battle plans. The guard confesses he joined the Ox's forces, hoping to avenge his dead. He mentions a conscript who turned others against the Ox before escaping. The protagonist directs the boy to Kyokaiji Temple, where Tadashige will welcome him. A survivor of the Tunjulsan massacre has lost her grandson. The protagonist finds the Ox's battle plans for Miki Castle, learning that many of his soldiers are peasants lured by promises of justice. They discover a conscript named Koshiro, who opposed the Ox and nearly died before escaping. The protagonist ensures the young guard reaches safety. Later, they meet Koshiro, who needs help rescuing his friend Seiji from Konki Castle. After a confrontation, the protagonist spares Seiji's life, honoring Koshiro's friendship with him. The protagonist believes Koshiro will help Yasuke free the deserters. They need to find a way to sneak into Miki Castle. Meeting with a merchant named Hiromichi, they learn the Ox plans to replace him with a more loyal commander. Hiromichi proposes a business deal that would benefit both parties, revealing the Ox's men are positioned at Takasago Shrine. A confrontation occurs between two individuals. One claims to be sent to kill someone, while the other explains they are merely paid to guard a box. The exchange reveals tension and careful positioning of loyalties. A samurai is welcomed into someone's home, with the host claiming to have heard tales of the samurai's exploits against the Ox's armies. The host tests the samurai's loyalties. The host presents a business proposal to the samurai. Besho Haramasa intends to replace the host with a faithful commander due to the host's dislike of Haramasa's grandiose speeches. The host reveals Haramasa's men are positioned at Takasago Shrine and suggests eliminating this mutual enemy would benefit both parties. In exchange, the host promises to smuggle the samurai's lady friend into Miki Castle. The samurai returns, having eliminated the commander as requested. The host confirms they will smuggle the samurai's friend into Miki Castle, right under the Ox's nose. The samurai criticizes the host for believing in nothing, while the Ox at least believes in a cause. The host requests a ship's manifest from the commander's body, which would allow control of goods into Harima, but the samurai refuses. The plan to move against the Ox is discussed. A ronin named Koshiro has returned to Miki Castle and will prevent conscripts from defending the Ox. A character named Hiromichi has agreed to smuggle someone into Miki Castle undetected. The plan involves taking down gunmen, freeing deserters, and facing the Ox in a duel he won't refuse. They also discuss potentially facing the Tsuno, the Ox's champion. A conversation about justice unfolds. The speaker recounts sheltering monks who suffered at Tanjulsan, providing food and water, but being unable to give them justice. They question whether killing the Tsuno constitutes justice, noting that the Tsuno's concept of justice can only destroy, not build. The discussion touches on past failures and uncertainty about what they're fighting for. The operation to infiltrate a location begins. Koshiro meets them, confirming the conscripts won't fight against them. After eliminating threats, they find an injured soldier of the Ox. The soldier recognizes someone and calls for help, triggering confrontation. The rumors about Yaske cutting down lives in the name of Nobunaga are confirmed as true. Besho Haramasa confronts Yaske, accusing him of being Nobunaga's lapdog and questioning his ability to offer peace. Yaske declares he's there to claim Haramasa's head and expose the hollowness of his words. Haramasa accepts the challenge, stating conviction guides his blade. The battle shifts as Haramasa calls upon Tsuno to be his sword. Tsuno agrees to fight despite being given chances to walk away. A dying character mentions their grandmother will worry and asks to tell her. Yaske asks for their name, and the dying person recalls how Hideyoshi killed many of their people while they could do nothing as just a boy. Later, Yaske confirms they've relocated everyone to safety as promised. Some will be taken to Nakamura Tadashige, while others will deal with the Ox. The confrontation with the Ox intensifies. He accuses Yaske of being no different from Hideyoshi. Discussion turns to a mysterious box, but the Ox seems disinterested in the Tatsu's ambitions, claiming he only wanted to help Harima. The Tsuno is revealed to have experienced his first death at the massacre at Tanjo's son. The Ox questions what Yaske can offer people that he couldn't. Yaske answers the Ox's question with one word: freedom, the freedom to choose their own paths. The Ox dismisses this as the coward's way in wartime, claiming those who chose freedom are now dead. The Ox meets his end, with Yaske thanking him. A discussion follows about how the Ox exploited suffering and offered wayward men a path forward. The conversation contrasts faith with logic in wartime. Yaske questions if his own motivations differ from the Tsuno's, searching his soul for answers. His companion insists Yaske is different because he doesn't use justice to control others, but embodies it, seeking to free people rather than mold them to his vision. They share a moment of understanding before returning to their mission. Later, they witness the fall of the daikon, Okudaira Toshizov. A soldier explains they joined to avoid Lord Riku's tax, but regrets it after seeing the brutality of their missions. They were ordered to raid storehouses, with few returning, while Lord Riku hoards the food for himself. Later, Yaske is commended for dealing with the corrupt daikons, where many others would have failed, accomplishing with one sword what would have required a dozen others. Lady Oichi thanks Yaske for freeing her from the daikon's shackles. It's revealed this mission was about more than just rescuing Lady Oichi. It was about gathering information on stewarding the realm, testing tax practices, and determining which governance methods worked. The mission appears to be part of a larger political strategy involving sword hunts and land surveys. Power can be both constructive and destructive depending on whose hands wield it. A concentrated power can leave people vulnerable to ruthless leadership, yet a single blade can shape an entire land's destiny. Lord Nobunaga's dream of unifying the land under one sword persists even after his death. Hashiba Hideyoshi now seeks to continue this vision, learning from Nobunaga's mistakes by pursuing a gentler, more just approach. The people owe a great debt of gratitude for past assistance. An important letter arrives with alarming news about Lady Oechi requiring assistance again. In a marketplace encounter, Yaske expresses concern for Lady Oechi's health and happiness based on troubling reports. She reassures him that all is well, expressing deep gratitude for his previous help before they part ways. A warrior named Yuki has spent months searching for Yaske, seeking to challenge and learn from the greatest swordsman in the land. She explains her motivation through the metaphor of a crane fighting an eagle in winter. refusing to yield despite impossible odds. Yuki requests a duel with Yaske, who accepts her challenge. Their intense combat demonstrates Yuki's fearlessness. Yaske acknowledges Yuki's crane-like spirit during their duel. Yuki reveals that her ferocity stems not merely from duty, but from facing her childhood fears of fighting repeatedly until it became her life path. Through their exchange, Yaske gains clarity about the heart and soul of the Naginata, considering it an honor to duel with Yuki. Yagyu Munetoshi initially refuses to duel, stating that his sword has brought only failure and death, including his son's demise. He feels no obligation to serve as a stepping stone for anyone's legend. When persuaded to draw his weapon one last time, Munetoshi experiences a renewed clarity of purpose during their fight. Following their duel, Munetoshi realizes he cannot abandon the way of the sword completely, though he still struggles with his perceived failures. Yaske explains he came not to defeat a legend, but to learn from the man, encouraging Munetoshi to join their league despite his burden of guilt. Munetoshi gratefully accepts, recognizing they can strengthen each other. A wounded Ashiguro desperately seeks help after an attack by a skilled archer who took the northwest road. Despite efforts to save him, the arrow is lodged too deeply in bone. The trail of bodies suggests an ambush by a Musugi archer, possibly Nagano Simon. Confronting Master Archer Nagano Simon, a warrior seeks to prove worthy of his teaching. Simon rebukes them, referencing past failures and betrayals by their sensei Kamizumi Nobunaga. Despite attempts at humility, Simon attacks. After their encounter, Simon reveals his unwavering loyalty to Lord Kenshin, contrasting with Nobunaga's betrayal. A discussion about damaged shrines reveals concerns about Omonunushi, a kami who has become unsettled. A plan forms to pay tribute with sake at 3 shrines to appease the deity. The shrine damage may be caused by restless spirits or possibly a human conspiracy with influential members who need to be stopped. A mysterious figure named Gogito appears, mocking the quest for spiritual answers. He cryptically suggests speaking with Daimyo Tsui Junke, recommending bringing persimmons as a gift. Gogito vanishes suddenly after making enigmatic comments about truth being elusive in Yamato. An audience with Lord Junki reveals the daimyo's suspicion toward visitors. Upon receiving a persimmon gift, Junka becomes unsettled, recalling a dream of a faceless man offering the same fruit. Junki explains that Yamato faces troubles from restless spirits and political conflict with the Akiyama clan, whose leader Radi Ayako has possibly abducted peace envoys. The meeting concludes with an invitation to visit Todaiji Temple. A group discusses their mission priorities in Yamato. They debate whether to focus on troublesome spirits, finding lost envoys, or investigating Lady Ayako. Someone with sensitive hearing like a rabbit has been eavesdropping on their conversation. The group concludes that resolving the Tsutsui Akiyama feud could bring lasting peace to the region. The team decides on their priorities. First, addressing the spirits causing fear among locals, then finding the missing envoys which may lead them to Lady Ayako. Amiko mentioned a nearby village with frightened priests that could provide information about the spirits. One member suggests visiting Hokyo afterward, while another warns against deviating from their plan. At Todaiji Temple, a visitor is welcomed by a host who notes the invitation was originally for Yaske. The host offers a tour of the temple, describing it as a place of tranquility amid war-torn Yamato. The visitor observes that action, not tranquility, will solve Yamato's problems, to which the host claims personal involvement in peace efforts. During the tour, they view Dabuzden, described as the heart of the realm. The host believes peace is what Yamato needs and hopes to guide the clans toward it through Buddha's teachings. The visitor seems skeptical of religious solutions, suggesting direct talks rather than scrolls bring peace. The host explains their role in peace negotiations, pointing to a sacred scroll that has traditionally guided talks between warring clans. They claim Buddha speaks through the scroll to bless or disapprove of agreements. Before departing to attend to duties, the host requests the visitor remain in the gardens, as some areas of the temple are restricted. A character named Progio leads the visitor somewhere unauthorized. They discover the Hokyo's collection of valuable relics that could fund an army. Among the items is a blood-stained sword and a tea kettle Progio claims to recognize. They also find a report suggesting Lady Ayako is untrustworthy, suspiciously left open for anyone to read. The Hokyo discovers them examining the collection and explains some items, including a tea set belonging to Matsunaga Hisahide, a greedy scoundrel with fine taste. The Hokyo recounts how Oda Nobunaga benefited the Tutsui clan by toppling the Matsunaga clan, then reneged on his promise to give Yamato to the monks. Moving to another area showing war damage, the Hokyo reveals surviving an attack by Hisahide's son at that very spot. The Hokyo expresses disappointment that Lord Junka has taken years to fund repairs. Suddenly, they're attacked by servitists, and the Hokyo offers their life to spare others. Following the attack, it's revealed the Akiyama have stolen an important scroll needed for peace in Yamato. The injured Hokyo feels unbearable shame and requests a blade for suicide to restore honor. They're convinced to instead inform Lord Junki at Koriyama Castle about the theft. A character, possibly Kojiro, reveals knowing where to find the stolen peace scroll. The protagonist expresses uncertainty about trusting Kojiro despite frequently following his advice. The scene shifts to Lord Junki, who is furious about the scroll theft and ready to declare war on the Akiyama clan. The protagonist returns the scroll to Lord Junki, suggesting peace remains possible despite the theft. They explain that while the thieves wore Akiyama colors, Lady Ayako may not have ordered the theft. Lord Junki accepts the scroll with reluctant gratitude. In a village mentioned by Amiko, priests complain about evil spirits stealing relics from shrines. Despite the threat, the Gokening warriors meant to protect them are not helping. Kojiro appears and suggests investigating suspicious activity at the Gokening no Kondai's manor. Kojiro reveals an outlaw camp at the hill ruins and suggests attacking at night when outlaws are most superstitious. Later, evidence suggests the outlaws were stealing shrine relics under orders from an unnamed superior. It's also discovered that Lord Junki sent missing peace envoys to this town. At a drinking establishment, Kojiro points out a man who boasted about seizing the envoys. A confrontation leads to a fight outside. Afterward, Lady Ayako of the Akiyama clan appears and reveals she's been tracking traitors within her clan by following the man. Lady Ayako explains that her clan has many traitors, possibly working for the Tsutsui clan. The captured man reveals the peace envoys were taken to an iron gathering site on orders from a masked warrior who promised gold. Lady Ayako urges finding the envoys before it's too late and arranges to meet near Kasuga Taisha Shrine. A rescued envoy explains that an invitation to Uda Matsuyama Castle is crucial for peace talks. Without it, Lady Ayako cannot speak for her clan. The envoy reveals both clans are preparing for war while talking of peace, with each trying to ascertain the other's military strength. Guards discuss protecting an important document, mentioning not to share information with Lady Ayako. After recovering the invitation to peace talks, the protagonist meets with Lady Ayako, who questions whether they've seen anyone dressed in her clan's colors but armed with a teppo gun. Lady Ayako explains that true Akiyama warriors use only steel weapons, never teppo, and rarely even bows. This tradition appears outdated to the protagonist, who comments that while steel is reliable, teppo represent the future. Lady Ayako perceives this as an insult to her clan's traditions. A tense conversation reveals someone is coming to Yamato with deeper motives than peace negotiations. The speaker admits targeting someone who spreads fear across the land like a dark shadow. Suspicions are raised about Sushi Junki being a warmonger, though he might say the same of his accuser. An invitation to peace negotiations is extended, which cannot be refused. The scene shifts to Kofuji Temple, where peace talks are being held. Yamato's leaders are gathered, including Lord Junke and Lady Ayago, who share mutual dislike. There are concerns that the Shimbokfer might attempt to stop the peace alliance. Two individuals discuss their roles. One will attend the ceremony and watch from within, while the other remains outside in the shadows. The peace talks are temporarily paused to allow leaders to confer privately with their retainers. This intermission causes concern, with Yaske questioning the halt. The person in charge defends the decision, claiming the timing of peace is their choice. Both Lord Junke and Lady Ayako express ambivalence about peace, with Junke seeking to establish dominance and Ayako remaining undecided between peace and war. A character named Kojiro enters the scene, described as mysterious but potentially valuable. The peace negotiations suddenly turn hostile as accusations fly. Someone suggests one of three people present is not who they seem. The situation escalates with Lord Nobunaga's decisions being questioned. Violence erupts when someone orders his blade to be drawn against a monk. Fighting breaks out with accusations of betrayal. Someone named Jokin flees northward and is pursued. Others remain to ensure Lord Junke and Lady Ayako's safety. A confrontation follows with someone lamenting that Bokong Nobunaga betrayed them and they were meant to rule Yamato. This person is mortally wounded and refuses to reveal the location of a box before dying. After eliminating a target, there's discussion about whether Yamato can now find peace. Skepticism exists about whether one person's death can truly end the turmoil, as madness and greed run deeper. They hope giving Yamato's people a chance for peace might lead to redemption. Kojiro disappears, with someone hoping he's finally at rest. The narrative shifts to someone feeling unburdened, acknowledging they cannot change the past. They discover information about assassins called Kakushiba Iki, who were slaughtered. A letter mentions special construction in Yamato province. There's reflection on hiding in plain sight, possibly referring to a blade that retracts to remain hidden. A new character acknowledges strangeness in Yamato and expresses distrust in their sensei, who has been acting secretively. A fight ensues. Afterward, someone named Nawe introduces themselves as Yasuke's ally. They discuss attackers hunting Nawe's clan, suspected to be the same people who hunted Lord Nobunaga, led by a man wearing a mask. The conversation touches on the invasion of Igor before returning to their current mission. They seek a man named Hong, who might have information. Hong runs a noodle shop and reveals that pirates led by Samamaru are causing trouble across Wakasa. He mentions Lord Nagahide has more relatives in Wakasa who might be in danger and directs them to Suduka Castle. The protagonist discovers Samamaru deals in human trafficking. They plan to kill Samamaru's men to free captives, approaching with stealth. They learn that someone is using the pirates to murder the Niwa clan. The journey continues to Solga Castle, where Lord Nagahide's relatives supposedly dwell. The scene ends with someone commenting on recently eaten fish. A tense conversation takes place about an imminent danger. Someone arrives claiming not to be a killer, but warning of grave danger. Despite the warning, the group appears unconcerned, stating that they trust their guards for protection. A mysterious melody plays, and the elder is mentioned. A sudden attack occurs, but the protagonist successfully defends against it. Following the confrontation, the elder directs the protagonist to Saif Kwai Temple to find the source of the music. Upon arrival at the temple, a musician is discovered playing a familiar melody. The musician, who teaches the biwa, a string instrument, explains that the melody was composed by a former student named Takeda Matwaki, who created it as a tribute to what his clan lost. The biwa master reveals that Takeda now associates with pirates who have caused great suffering. The master pleads for help to free Wakasa from these pirates. This suggests Takeda may have grievances against the Niwa clan. When reporting back to Lord Nagahide, The protagonist shares their findings about Takeda Motowaki being the perpetrator behind attacks on Nagahide's family. Lord Nagahide confirms that Takeda seeks revenge and wants to reclaim Chihama Castle and Wakasa. The Takeda clan was previously ousted from Nochishiyama Castle by the Asakura, after which Nobunaga gave the castle to Nagahide. Lord Nagahide authorizes the protagonist to eliminate Takeda, who lives in the samurai district. While searching for Takeda, the protagonist encounters Samaru, a pirate and slaver. A brief confrontation occurs, during which Samaru mysteriously recognizes a name associated with the protagonist, raising questions about the protagonist's past. Samaru escapes after the fight. The search continues for Takeda Motowaki. In Takeda's room, evidence of his connection to pirates is discovered, along with a biwa and poetic writings about an old castle. Takeda confronts the protagonist, explaining his motivation for revenge stems from the tragedy when his clan was driven from Nochishiyama Castle, during which he lost his beloved. A battle ensues between Takeda and the protagonist. Before dying, Takeda asks that his biwa be returned to his master. He admits to working with criminals to reclaim what he loved most. After Takeda's death, Lord Nagahide expresses gratitude for making Wakasa safer. The protagonist appears deeply troubled by Samaru's knowledge and seeks help to find him. Later, a meeting with a noble lady reveals that only one Shimbaka remains, Mitsuhide, who has gathered forces at Shoryuji Castle. Lord Hideyoshi is preparing to battle Mitsuhide in a conflict that will shape the country's future. The protagonist joins Lord Hideyoshi's forces against Mitsuhide, but plans to reach Mitsuhide directly rather than following Hideyoshi's battle plan. They decide to move ahead, seeking vengeance for Lord Nobunaga's betrayal by Mitsuhide. The battle begins with invocations to Hachiman and Lord Nobunaga watching over them. A confrontation begins between rival factions. Someone questions the support of the Wuta Hosokawa clan and allies. A defiant response follows. They will face enemies without them if necessary. A battle ensues with someone commanding to take their gasso. During the confrontation, regret is expressed about not killing someone in Homoji previously. This sentiment is repeated several times as the battle intensifies, with orders to deal with this being given repeatedly. Lord Machide is offered cover for retreat, but he refuses, declaring he will face his fate with sword in hand rather than continue running. He releases his followers from service. Someone confronts him as a traitor and mentions Yaske, Nobunaga's royal braid. The traitor explains his actions, claiming he once shared loyalty with Nobunaga but turned against him after witnessing atrocities at Rakuzi, where monks, women, and children were burned and beheaded by the thousands. He argues someone had to stop Nobunaga's madness and endless slaughter of innocents. The confronter condemns the traitor for defiling honor and betraying his lord with a stab in the back. The traitor reveals the Shimbabu used him, mentions Ega, and accuses the other of supporting a peasant tyrant for Nobunaga's throne. Each believes they are saving the country while the other destroys it. The traitor reveals there is another who would have become shogun, but was prevented when they defied death and hunted them down. This person is identified as Ashikaga Yoshiaki, whom Nobunaga toppled from power. Discussion turns to an important box containing the Yasakani no Magatama, one of the imperial regalia jewels. The loyal samurai is praised as potentially the greatest of all for avenging their lord. The defeated requests to die honorably as a samurai. A poetic passage follows about rain falling in the garden on Summer Mountain. The victor declares the traitor's life work undone. Lord Nobunaga's vengeance is announced complete. Discussion turns to succession, with recognition that a balanced leader is needed who has both might to crush opposition and grace to maintain balance. A farmer's son vows to end samurai exploitation, promising the start of a new era. A samurai is honored for actions that brought honor to Lord Nobunaga. The conversation shifts to a continuing hunt for someone with a jewel, with only one target remaining. They resolve to hunt down the shogun. The former shogun Ashikaga Yoshiaki meets with the protagonists, approaching alone with nothing to hide. He acknowledges his defeat and offers the treasure, explaining that where the box goes, so does the jewel. He admits underestimating their resilience. One character states they promised their father to return what was stolen, always keeping their word. The shogun offers the treasure freely as a starting point for negotiations to spare his life. He suggests they seek another shadow with a wristplate like theirs. A deal is struck for information. The shogun provides locations: Enyamato, Osaka, Funashi. However, not everyone honors the agreement. The shogun defends his actions as attempts to restore order against warmongering leaders like Nobunaga who plunged the country into chaos. The shogun reveals information about a temple order found near Porto Bama, where Duarte de Mello can be found, and in Takahara village, where Kimura Kei sells their strengths to enemies. The confronter states Nobunaga feared no such forces and declares the shogun will die forgotten while Nobunaga's name lives forever. The characters reflect on their victory, but one feels it isn't truly over as they both have paths to trace. They wonder how many lives were lost because of the jewel and commit to preventing further bloodshed. They acknowledge such burdens are more bearable when shared. Characters discuss a deranged man who hunted people in Lord Nobunaga's name. They find a creed. We are the shadows who serve the light, which feels true to their league. A letter mentions one character's mother was a master shinobi, respected by her students who recruited in the region. The characters follow the trail of an assassin where the shogun's spies lost track. They confirm the shogun told the truth about something, then observe what happens at the location. A confrontation ends with instructions to clear the mind, Mushin and Chichu. Someone injured mentions they couldn't stop an enemy from taking a box. They express regret at failing their oath and keeping secrets too long. The box is revealed to contain one of 3 imperial regalia: the jewel, Yasukani no Makatama, sacred treasures the emperor entrusted to the Kuko for protection. A flashback reveals one character's mother was an apprentice to foreign assassins who came to Ega seeking help. The mother swore to protect the jewel. For years they prospered with the regalia safely hidden in Setsu, but enemies arose. A league was slaughtered, the regalia stolen. The mother returned with the jewel, made them swear to protect it, and promised to retrieve the other regalia, but never returned. For years, someone played the mother's favorite song nightly, and one night heard it played back, suggesting she might still be alive. They resolved to find her and reach Tomakos for help. A realization dawns that the song was a call to the missing mother. A reunion occurs with recognition. See you, mother. Characters discover a hidden place with stairs one character's father might have known about. Years of anger at Chichiri for not discussing the mother are reconsidered. The imperial regalia are identified as the sacred hearts of the country. A vow is made to continue the parents' mission of protecting them. The values of valor, wisdom, and benevolence are invoked. The jewel Yasukani no Magatama is returned, fulfilling a promise to Tichue. A message begins to be read, apparently from a loved one, addressing what should happen if they and Naue are forced from Ega. A mother reveals she survived the fall of their league and has kept secrets. She explains that she didn't die the night their league fell, which shocks her child. The countless nights of listening to Nagato's song finally helped her understand that it was the key. It was a message being played back to her father. The discussion turns to the regalia with the revelation that Lord Ieyasu found and stole the mirror from the foreign order. He kept it to eventually return it to the emperor, possibly to gain favor from the imperial court. Both believe foreign powers are only in their land to exploit it. The mother, now loyal to Lord Ieyasu, simply asked for the mirror. Lord Ieyasu was impressed by both the Black Samurai's honor and the protagonist's resilience in fulfilling their father's promise. The protagonist now understands their parents followed an imperial mission to protect the regalia and fought oppression as part of a foreign assassin brotherhood that protected those who couldn't protect themselves. The conversation shifts to redemption. Hanzo is asked to listen without drawing his blade. The truth reveals that Hanzo and Nagato were brothers who both loved Tsu. When she chose Nagato instead, Hanzo left in shame and pain, returning years later only to find them as a perfect family, which fueled his rage. Hanzo confesses to the unthinkable, selling the location of the regalia to a mysterious group out of resentment. This betrayal caused Hargard to fall and weakened Tsu. Though he regretted it immediately and rushed to warn Tsu, it wasn't enough. The imperial regalia was stolen, and Tsu was presumed dead, though Hanzo never believed it. Hanzo searched for Tsu for years while watching her husband mourn and raise their child. His shame grew. When Ega was attacked, he knew it would eventually fall and couldn't let Tsu's daughter die there. He wrote a letter offering protection, but Nagato refused and the Zimbabwe attacked first. Hanzo apologizes for the father's death and offers to save the protagonist by persuading them from their path. A heated argument ensues about family, with Hanzo claiming that family was the weakness that killed the protagonist's parents. The protagonist refuses to accept this, demanding justice and telling Hanzo to keep their parents' names out of his demon mouth. After defeating Hanzo in combat, the protagonist chooses not to kill him, recognizing that vengeance is a destructive spiral that must end. Despite not forgiving Hanzo for what he did, the protagonist offers forgiveness and asks Hanzo to prove his alliance by returning to Kakushibai to help find the protagonist's mother. The scene shifts to the port of Obama, where someone is tracking signals for ships. They're determined not to let Duarte escape and find a boatman to reach Duarte's ship. A confrontation ensues with someone from their past who interrupts what they call playtime. A tense confrontation occurs with someone who remembers the protagonist's face. The protagonist demands to know where Nunokaro is. The antagonist mocks them as being allied with a shinobi and questions if they've come to kill them. The protagonist vows to make them feel the pain of those they've hurt. After a violent clash, the protagonist declares their name is Shazki. They discover a Templar symbol and, unable to make sense of it, decide to seek help. They return to a place called Hatsumon, determined to find answers. The protagonist meets an old friend named Louise, who now calls them Yaske. They discuss how much has changed since they last met, including Lord Nobunaga's death, which has left the realm unbalanced. Louise mentions rumors about an interesting duo, a shinobi and a samurai, causing chaos across the land. The protagonist shows Louise a letter they found, an oath to the Templar Order. Louise explains he heard of the Templar Order in Italy, where they were connected to powerful houses that caused turmoil in Rome before being mysteriously eradicated by a secret organization. The letter mentions Kimura Kai training secret warriors at a school in Kii. The conversation reveals more about the protagonist's past. Louise recalls rescuing them from drifting on a piece of wood in the open sea. The protagonist finally shares that they were on a ship with others when it was destroyed, leaving more questions about their mysterious background. The protagonist discovers that Duarte de Mello and Nunokaro are part of the Templar Order. They set out to find Kimura Gai, hoping to find answers. Upon arriving at a location, they encounter someone who once served the Oda clan, identified as Yaske, a renowned warrior. They discuss their service to Lord Nobunaga and their current existence, questioning if they are truly alive despite functioning physically. Yaske expresses a desire to forge their own path and bring peace. They discuss Lord Hashiba Hideyoshi as Nobunaga's successor. When asked about Kimura Kei, the person admits to knowing him only by reputation. They mention Kumabe Ujie, who recruits Ronin at a cemetery in Koyasan, describing him as more talker than fighter. They warn Yaske that Kimura Kei creates warriors who attack without hesitation upon command. At the cemetery, Yaske searches for Kumabe Ujie among the Ronin. They encounter Kumabe, who recognizes Yaske and introduces himself as serving Kimura Kei. Kumabe describes Kimura as a guide for lost souls and former samurai seeking direction. When Yaske expresses interest in meeting Kimura, Kumabe agrees to take them along with other recruits. Kumabe reveals that Kimura Kei welcomes all warriors, not just samurai. When questioned about who Kimura reports to, Kumabe mentions a foreigner, but claims the arrangement is merely formal and that Kimura acts independently. Kumabe portrays Kimura as fearless, claiming he once sacrificed his eldest daughter for victory. He describes Kimura's goals as achieving control, order, and discipline. The recruits are addressed, with the speaker seeing potential in them and directing them to training grounds in the southwest. Yaske contemplates that Kimura might lead to Nonokaro, but worries he's another power-hungry individual like Duarte de Mello. They question how Nonokaro recruited Kimura and what could motivate someone to betray their country. Yaske enters a location and waits with others to be received by Kimura Kai. When Kimura appears, he addresses the Ronin, calling them dishonored and ownerless. He offers them a new beginning as part of the Templar Order, promising they will reclaim lands and restore honor under his guidance. Kimura identifies Yaske as an enemy and orders the recruits to kill them. A confrontation erupts between Yaske and Kimura. Kimura defends the Templars while Yaske accuses him of betraying his land. Kimura claims his land robbed him of purpose, which the Templars restored. They battle, with Yaske gaining the upper hand. As Kimura is defeated, he reveals Nonokaro is Yaske's next target, but refuses to disclose his location. Before dying, Kimura claims his dream will endure despite his death. With Kimura dead, Yaske notes the Templars have suffered a blow. Through Kimura's correspondence, they discover a connection to someone called the Silver Queen, who might be more cooperative. Yaske learns she's located in Tada's silver mine and heavily guarded. Upon finding her, she recognizes Yaske and takes them to her house to talk safely. The Silver Queen introduces herself as Hosokawa Tama. She runs the silver trade for Westerners, apparently under duress. When Yaske explains they're hunting a Portuguese man with a cross-shaped pendant, Tama questions if this is possible. However, the conversation is interrupted when a man named Karo appears unexpectedly. He reveals he was behind Tama's invitation and confronts Yaske. Karo acknowledges Yaske's previous kills of his associates and expresses displeasure. He recognizes Tama as the daughter of Mitsuhide and reveals that Yaske was involved in her father's death. Tama, learning this, poisons Yaske. She explains that before Hanoji, her father sent her and her brother as collateral to the foreign invaders. Despite her anger toward Yaske, she seems to reconsider whether they might help her against Karo. A conversation begins between two individuals where one requests help. A samurai pledges to keep their word. They discuss someone named Karo, who is hiding and using others to do his bidding. They reveal that Karo's men are holding Mitsuyoshi, the only family they have left, at Kamiyama Castle to ensure cooperation. A deal is proposed: help freeing Mitsuyoshi in exchange for delivering Karo. The first speaker mentions they cannot be seen together as they are supposedly dead. The samurai confidently states there is little standing between them and freeing the brother if Karo is offered up as promised. There's mention of something taken long ago by Karo and his people. The samurai affirms they gain nothing from betrayal and promises to bring the brother to a Tago shrine after freeing him. The mission to rescue Mitsuyoshi begins, with information that he's being held near the Tenshu, inside living quarters. Someone indicates Mitsuyoshi has been taken by a young lord who locked him away beneath a Tenshu. A key is provided to help with the rescue. The samurai reassures that help is coming and that everything possible is being done. The samurai finally finds Lord Mitsuyoshi, who initially believes he might be killed. The samurai introduces himself as Yaske, sent by Lady Tamar, who awaits at Atago Shrine. Mitsuyoshi mentions his katana was taken by a foreigner named Badasar and refuses to leave without it. Yaske emphasizes how much Mitsuyoshi's sister has sacrificed for his safety and encourages him to come along. When questioned about his motives, Yaske simply states it's a chance to do what is right. They plan to recover the katana, which is reportedly in the courtyard. Yaske promises to deliver the blade to Atago and asks if Mitsuyoshi knows the way there. Mitsuyoshi confirms he's been there many times with his father. Yaske retrieves the katana but tells Mitsuyoshi he'll give it to him at the shrine. They prepare to leave together. Mitsuyoshi describes how losing his katana made him feel helpless and unable to protect anyone, including his sister. Yaske offers wisdom about being a warrior, saying one must believe in something and be willing to show emotions, as feeling nothing means believing in nothing. The siblings reunite. Lady Tamar, addressed as Eniwi, assures her brother they're leaving. When Mitsuyoshi expresses concern about Karo, she says it will be taken care of. She confirms he has their father's katana and urges him to leave quickly. Mitsuyoshi explains that his father would visit Atago with the katana before battles to pray for protection. The katana now belongs to Mitsuyoshi, though Tamar believes he will leave it at the shrine as a proper farewell to their father, noting there has been enough death. Tamar acknowledges Yaske's capabilities while noting he's different from others, fighting not for personal glory. She admits considering killing him, but recognized something in his eyes when he looked at Karo. She realized they shared a common enemy. Tamar expresses her daily prayers for Karo's death, describing him as a corrupting influence on her father, home, and family. She hopes to put this time behind her and free herself from those who crave power. Yaske reveals being drawn by something from his past he cannot leave behind. Though once prepared to die, he now wishes to live for those he cares about. Tamar notes Mitsuyoshi reminds her of another boy close to Yaske's heart. When asked what she saw in Yaske's eyes besides hatred or rage, Tamar answers, purpose. She then reveals that Karo can be found at Takeda Castle. The scene shifts to a confrontation where someone mentions Yaske is near and can feel the sins of his past. A man called Signor learns that someone helped Yaske, resulting in a bloodbath. Yaske appears and demands answers for past actions. A tense confrontation unfolds with someone called Sinukaru. Pleading voices claim they saw nothing. The scene becomes violent as Yaske confronts Diogu, who admits killing Yaske's mother to set an example about insubordination. Diogu mocks Yaske's desire for revenge, claiming it will achieve nothing as they already have the regalia. Yaske responds that this won't last long and reveals he was sent because no one else in his organization cared enough. Diogu boasts about owning everything in the land, resources, and people. A bounty is mentioned for escaped slaves. Fighting breaks out as Diogu orders his men to kill Yaske so they can focus on what really matters. The confrontation intensifies as Yaske gains the upper hand. Diogu tries to negotiate, suggesting they settle things like civilized men. Yaske responds that Diogu knows nothing of civility and dismisses Diogu's attempt to talk, saying he talks too much. Diogu admits defeat and pleads for help, but Yaske shows no mercy. Yaske explains how after his mother's murder, he kept his desire for vengeance in his heart, in the same place he once held thoughts of her. When Diogu offers vengeance, Yaske reveals he wants more, a declaration of war against the Templar Order. Despite Diogu's skepticism, Yaske expresses confidence in victory because they are united in defense of their home. Yaske explains his code and purpose, to prove no one is untouchable, that even Diogu is just one blade of grass in a withering field. His death will send a message to his compatriots to fear Yaske's group. As the confrontation concludes, Yaske delivers a final blow, declaring that this is just the beginning of the Templars' end. As he walks away, he asserts that his name is not Diogu, but Yaske.